Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the O-Cast with me, your boy O. In this episode right here, we're going to talk about this Monday night game between the Green Bay Packers and the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I myself did not tune in until after the second half because I was too busy watching my Braves take care of business against the Phillies. And, of course, I was hooping and hollering, jumping up and down, screaming. That was an amazing way to end the game. Amazing. But this isn't a baseball video. Now to the game. Like I said, I tuned in after halftime when it was 10-3 the Raiders. And of course, I still broke down the after game, full game highlights and full game stats. And it was really evenly matched all the way across the board. All the way across the board except one key stat, the turnovers. Yeah, the turnovers. I'm going to get into Jordan Love, but it was a pretty even match. Jimmy G himself was pretty decent, 22 for 31, 208 yards and a touchdown. He threw a pick, and it was a pretty bad pick, but the defense held strong. They only held the Packers to kicking a field goal, and that's always a win. It's always a win. Whenever you turn over the ball, especially when you turn over the ball in your own territory, you really put your defense in a bad spot. For them to be able to hold strong and keep the other team to just a field goal, that's always a win. With that saying said, when I was watching the game, the Troy Aikman and Joe Buck were really making a big deal out of the fact that the Devontae Adams wasn't getting a lot of targets. I believe he only finished with like 4 catches. He finished with 4 catches for 45 yards. I just want to reiterate, I know that Troy Aikman is a Super Bowl champ and all that, but I'm still going to feel the way I feel. There's no reason for them to be trying to force the ball to Devontae Adams if Jimmy G can't get it to him. I mean, there's so many other factors of the game than the fact that he is a stud. Yes, he feels like he's always open, but Jimmy G has a progression that he has to go to that they got to be honest with. And the Jacoby Myers kid was open. He was killing him. I don't have no problem with that. Of course, they eventually did get him involved, but, you don't want to end up like the Buffalo Bills trying to force the ball to your star receiver, because once the postseason starts, it's not necessarily going to be able to get the ball to that receiver. It's the postseason. These teams are locked in and creating game plans only for you, and every play matters. It's easy for them to build a scheme or to come up with some type of coverage or some type of game plan in order to make it difficult for you to get the ball to that receiver. And if you only forcing it to them all season, nobody else is going to be ready for the situation. And your quarterback is not, the other receivers is not. It's just a sticky situation. So I have no issue with the Raiders not forcing the ball to Devontae Adams in the first half, because they ended up winning the game anyway. They showed balance. They ran the ball. Of course, they got one of the best backs in the league in Josh Jacobs. He finished with 20 carries for 69 yards and a touchdown. And like I said, it was an even game. A.J. Dillon, the running back for the Packers, he finished with almost identical stats, 20 carries for 76 yards and a touchdown. Both teams stuck to the run. Both teams were committed to the run with their running backs, and that is why it was a close game. Even though the Packers lost, pay attention to the fact that they still had an opportunity at the end of the game to win. Yes, they had some lucky stuff happen, which is the 2 missed field goals by the Raiders kicker, who happened to be the brother of the Packers kicker. I thought that was pretty cool. But still, remaining honest with your run game and remaining physical is always the best response when your quarterback is struggling. And Jordan Love was clearly struggling. He hasn't really looked too good the past couple weeks, despite his good start. He finished the game 16 for 30, 182 yards and 3 interceptions, and each one of those interceptions were bad interceptions. Except for maybe the last one. The last one was really an amazing play by that DB, but it was underthrown and it was bad timing. He was beat. If he had threw the ball to Watson sooner, he would have been able to drop it inside of the bucket or side of the basket, inside of the end zone. And Christian Watson, all he had to do was just run up under it. But because he saw him open late, he underthrew it, which he kind of had to in the situation because he was in the end zone. But he still underthrew it, which allowed that DB, who was playing the ball very well, young DBs, I won't say that was textbook, but that was very good coverage he had, playing running alongside the receiver, paying attention, playing physical, and then paying attention to the fact when the receiver is looking towards the ball and he has his hands up. That's why some receivers, coaches are always preaching to their coaches, late hands. But he didn't, and instead of just playing the man, which always turns into a penalty, the DB quickly turned his head and made a play on the ball, which some Packers fans were saying, hey, push off. But because he turned around and made a play on the ball, there's no call. Because the ball, he has just as much as a right to the ball as the receiver, as long as he's playing for it. And he did. He turned around, jumped, caught the ball at the highest point, and that was dope. That was a dope way to end the game. That was a really fire way to win the game. I think it was a really good win for the Raiders, who have high expectations. I don't necessarily think that they should have those high expectations. They're actually a middle of the road team in my opinion, and so is the Green Bay Packers. But both teams have some promise, especially the Green Bay Packers. And I want to focus a little bit more on Jordan Love, because this narrative seemed like today on sports media, on television, was that Jordan Love, have we seen enough of him? Is it enough, or has he shown that he can't do it? Did the Packers make a mistake? No, that's nonsense. This young man has clearly shown he has the skills. When you have a first-year quarterback, you shouldn't be judging them based off of wins and losses, because that's stupid. It's his first year playing. Everybody not going to beat Ben Roethlisberger. It's not going to happen. Everybody not going to come out the gate winning all those games. It's just not going to happen. That's a rarity. And for him, and even though he has sat down for 2 years, it doesn't matter. He still got to go out there and play. He's clearly hit some type of wall. I'm not going to discredit. I'm not going to just give him a pass and say he's okay. He's playing great. No, he's not playing he's not playing at his best. But I fully believe if that team can keep faith in him and they continue to work with him, learn from these past games and realize, okay, what were we doing in the scheme that gave him such a difficult time these weeks that we were not doing in the first weeks when he was doing well? Maybe we need to go back to that. Like I said in my recap video, it's last week on this week 5 with Josh Dobbs and the Cardinals. It looks like they tried to open up the playbook a little bit more for Josh Dobbs, and they didn't need to do that. They need to keep him where he was at, because, he's not really, in my opinion, at that skill level to be doing all that. Like, what they were doing with him was why they were being successful. And with Packers, they probably saw that he was doing really good in those first 2 weeks or whatnot and say, hey, let's give him some more. And maybe they did that a little bit too quick and a little bit too soon. So maybe they need to dial it back a bit and dumb down the game plan again, because, obviously things got a little bit away from him. But I'm fully believe in his ability, because he's shown he has an arm talent. He's shown he has a pocket presence, and he shows he has accuracy, and he also has shown he can throw the ball from different type of platforms. I've seen him do sidearm. I've seen him do one-legged. I've seen him do sideways feet. Like he's shown me that he can do it, and he can run. Like, the Packers definitely have a future franchise quarterback who they need to stick with, So if you're a Packers fan, you just need to keep calm, be cool, and be patient, and be realistic with the fact that you have a first-year starting quarterback. You're not gonna win a Super Bowl. A lot of fans mess up their own teams with jumping the gun and calling for a coach's head, or calling for a quarterback's head, or any type of key player's head once they're not playing very well a couple weeks, and not realizing the power that they have. That some of these GMs and these owners who don't have the greatest football IQ, they're only looking at every player as assets and looking at this as a business, which it is partly a business. They look at all that stuff and they might make a rash decision and send a quarterback out the way, or fire a coach who doesn't need to be fired and send a quarterback away that they've given up on way too soon. And fans, you got to be cautious of that, because a lot of these GMs and fans, they fall victim to that crap. I'm surprised that the Jets haven't fallen victim to that and letting go of Zach Wilson and bringing in some off-the-street quarterback. Unless it's Cam Newton, they don't need to be doing that. But if it's Cam, yeah, you need to call your boy and let him come up there to the Jets and get it done. You get Cam, the season will be back good. Trust me. But back to my point, a lot of teams fall victim to media pressure. And in this situation, I hope the Packers don't do that, because I really feel like Jordan Love is a franchise quarterback and he's going to be fine. So pump the brakes, and just hold your horses. He'll get through it. Like I said, it was a very evenly matched game. It's not really much for me to break down because everything was so much of the same. Packers had 18 first downs. The Raiders had 19 first downs, 4 for 12 for third down compared to 5 for 13 for third down, 285 total yards, 279 total yards. It was a very evenly matched game, and it came down to those 3 turnovers by Jordan Love. You know what I'm saying? So it happens, and sometimes, honestly, a game like this probably needs to happen to him. If you want him to end up being the guy, he's got to go through so many different scenarios, so many different situations, win a game like this, lose a game like this. It's all going to make him better as long as the Packers, the organization, and the coaching staff are looking at it with that perspective instead of saying, oh, no. Oh, did we make a mistake? Damn, I don't hit the mic. I don't made a mistake. Oh, no. Did we even? Nah, man. Make your decision and stick with it. Don't be fickle, because being fickle is how you stay at the bottom. Ask other teams in the league. So, Packers fan, don't be tripping. Don't be letting the media steer your mentality. Don't let the media steer your mind into feeling like it's time to get off of Jordan Love. Nah, he good. He's great. Raiders, Jimmy G is a winner. And, you got Josh Jacobs, top 5 back in the league. I mean, I got Max Crosby on defensive end. I'm not, like I say, when I say medium, middle of the pack team, it's not a diss. It's just that, in the AFC, it's a lot of teams that are better than y'all. And, and in that division, I mean, you really don't have to worry about anybody but the Chiefs. But, I mean, it's the Chiefs. The Broncos are not a threat. I just don't have too much faith in the Raiders to really make a dent in the league this year. I'm sorry, no offense, but yeah, and then they got to deal with the Chargers too. Like the best, my opinion, is they'll finish as third in the division, and that's not going to be good enough to make the playoffs. I think that the Raiders got to make some good decisions. If it were me, I'll trade Adams for some assets, Jimmy G for some assets. You may not get that many assets, and then keep Jacobs and keep Crosby as the 2 centerpieces for the offense and the defense, and then build around that. That's what I would do, because when you're in this situation, you're in the middle of the pack. The worst thing you want is to constantly finish 8-9 or 7-10 and stuff, because that's not a good pick. You're not getting a high pick, and you're not getting a low pick, which means you were successful making the playoffs. Being in the middle of the road is not the place where you want to be. And honestly, that's where my Falcons are right now. But, hey, that's another conversation for another day. But, yeah, Monday Night Football is in the books. The Green Bay Packers came away. Not the Packers. The Raiders came away with a 17-13 victory for last second. It wasn't really much last second, but last minute interception by number 21. The Raiders made an outstanding play. Right, and that was it. Hey, this has been another episode of the O-Cast with me, your boy O. Out.